Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Stuart. I'm the co-founder of Utradea, a platform for investment ideas and insights. Today, we are going to be looking at LMT, Lockheed Martin. We're going to be looking at two things. So first, I'm going to start off with the social sentiment, kind of what we've seen trending across Twitter in the last 72 hours. And then we're going to dive into a little bit of due diligence around LMT. So without further ado, let's get started. Right now, I'm just walking through the social sentiment dashboard. As I mentioned, this allows us to see what's trending across Twitter, Reddit, Stocktwits for over 1,000 tickers. And what's interesting is LMT kind of popped up because of this spike in here. So we'll dive into this. But just giving you a quick overview, essentially we can see for anyone that is tagged or cash tagged or hashtagged LMT, we can see the number of posts, retweets, likes, impressions, as well as what's going on in the market over different time periods. As we can see, there's been a significant increase in the most recent 72 hours versus the previous 72 hours. So the number of posts, typically LMT isn't getting that many tweets about Lockheed Martin, which makes sense. It's a big kind of blue chip kind of stock. But in the last little while, we've seen this jump from about typically 800 posts over the previous 72 hours up to almost 4,000. So a 300% increase. The number of comments that are mentioning LMT, now this is significant. So typically over a 3-day period, about 3,000. This has jumped to 4.2 million. Huge increase, 138,000% increase, which is kind of funny to see. We'll jump into why, but essentially this is showing us that LMT has been trending the last 72 hours compared to the previous 72 hours. And this is something that as an investor, if I currently owned LMT, I'd want to see, what's going on. If I was thinking of investing in LMT, this is kind of a great indicator for me to dive in a little bit more. So let's see what people are talking about. What's interesting is kind of this massive spike that you see in here. So number of impressions are how many people see a tweet that mentions LMT. And this is kind of a good proxy to see the social momentum. Obviously, the more people that see a tweet mentioning a stock or a ticker, the more eyes it gets, and sometimes that leads to some price action. So if we click into this one, and this is March 7th at 8 a.m., so a little bit before market opens, we can see the top accounts that are tweeting about LMT. So typically, I like to scan these looking for kind of any interesting insights or general sentiment about LMT. So for instance, we see that Wells Fargo maintains equal weight on Lockheed Martin, raises price target to 486. Someone saying long LMT. So just kind of some overview and insights. And that way you don't have to go scrolling through Twitter trying to find the most recent informative tweets about LMT. What's interesting, so let's see, this is at 9 a.m. So 9 a.m. on March 7th, we see a few interesting tweets. So Republican Marjorie Taylor Greene bought stock in America's largest defense contractor, Lockheed Martin. So, if a congresswoman is buying into a stock, typically they think it's going to go up. They probably have access to information that the general public doesn't. So again, usually a good indicator. So let's jump in and see. And when that tweet or these tweets were sent out, about 1 million people saw tweets related to LMT. And most of it was about Marjorie Taylor buying into the stock. So looking at this big spike here, we see Yahoo Finance tweeted out, and they mentioned LMT, WTI, IMPP. But essentially the big thing here is that 1.3 million people saw this tweet. And then this person retweeted that Marjorie Taylor bought the stock, reached about 1 million people. So ultimately you see that close to 4.5 million people saw a tweet related to LMT. So that's usually a strong signal, right? And if we jump over to the market itself, So this was, let me just jump back quickly. This was March 7th, 9 a.m. So just before market open. Let's actually go to the 30-minute. We can see that was at 10 a.m. the Yahoo Finance tweeted it out. If we go to 9 a.m., that's when we saw, okay, that was pretty much at market open. That people were saying that. See if there's anything pre-market. Interesting. So that didn't come out pre-market, so you wouldn't have really had time to buy into pre-market if you had that access. But if we look at this again, March 7th, let's look at what happened. So the Friday before it closed at about $458 per share. Market open $472. So significant increase in price right off the start. And then since that significant increase kind of has petered off a little bit, back down to the today around 2 p.m. back at about $448, $450 a share. And again, I'd say this significant pop we saw pre-market as well as first thing definitely related to this tweet and these tweets here mentioning the purchase of LMT by a congresswoman. So that's enough about the social sentiment dashboard. What I want to jump into next is a little bit of due diligence for LMT. So if you're interested, stay tuned. We can continue with this. If not, the link to this social sentiment dashboard can be found in the description. Check it out, super useful, can be used for any ticker that you currently follow or are interested in. Okay, let's jump over to the stock page for LMT. This is really the overview. So if you guys are following stocks, following LMT, this is typical info you'd come across, a snapshot overview, the description, summary of financials, how they did in earnings quarter over quarter, a little bit more information about their valuation, recent news, Wall Street targets, analyst ratings. This is interesting to see. So Morgan Stanley, Wells Fargo, UBS, most of them have initiated a buy rating. So they've either maintained their buy, and it looks like they've all maintained a buy. Wells Fargo still maintaining a hold. So that's kind of the overview, but what's really useful is our community due diligence. So this is where people have shared information and analysis about Lockheed Martin. And we're just going to dive into it a little bit. So looking at this piece of due diligence, this person shared Market Madness, essentially said Lockheed Martin is the most financially sound large cap company trading at a discount. So quick little summary of why this is the case. So when this person initiated a position, this is September 9th, 2021, so a couple months ago, but when they initiated the position, it was $450 a share. If you had seen this back then, read the due diligence, maybe opened a position, you'd be up quite a bit. Now they closed it out a little early with a price target of $400, but if they'd held, they'd be up, almost close to 25% at this point. It was a pretty solid return. But essentially they're saying, look, LMT has the lowest price to sales ratio among some of the top competitors and is essentially tied for lowest PE as well. So looking at competitors, low PE ratio, low PS ratio, fair value estimate of around $425, low volatility, long-term option, stocks are incredibly cheap. So just an interesting piece of analysis, something you might not find from most news sources, but great to get into. So we can go back to the actual stock page, and there's a few more people who have shared their thoughts on LMT. So this person, October 27th, initiated a position, is up 35%. Lockheed Martin going to buy their own dip, $6 billion war chest. Kind of a little bit of background on why LMT would be a good investment. And let's see if there's any more. Okay, the most recent one. So this is Feb 24th, 2022. LMT, the best stock for global tensions. That makes sense. Considering what's happening in Russia, Ukraine right now. This person gives a bit of an overview of LMT. Okay, multiples look good. We saw that in the previous DD position. We'll do financial position, very stable company. Bullish, short, medium term. Makes sense. Cool. So yeah, like I said, we just did a quick walkthrough of what we saw as a trend for LMT in the short term and something we've been tracking for a while, as well as some community DD on Utradea, which gives you some great perspectives, unique perspectives on LMT or particular stocks that you might be interested in. It really gives you the full suite of info you're looking for, whether you're holding a stock or thinking of making an investment. Thanks for checking it out. If you could please subscribe, I'd love to see that. Stay tuned for some more videos that come out. Links will be in the description below, and happy investing.